O Nile, O sacred river of Africa, why are you so cruel to the hidden agony of a mother? Queen Aichi, her skin a glossy ebony like the silt-laden earth after the flood, her 9-month belly heavy as the weight of fate itself, sits silently by the shimmering banks of the Nile under the golden sun of ancient Egypt. Here, the green palms whisper gentle lullabies. The wind carries the wild lotus scent that seeps into her heart, soothing the worries of the forbidden palace. She loves the Nile, companion to her deepest secrets, a place where she can shed the mask of queen to become herself once more. But then, the labor pains strike suddenly like the raging summer flood, tearing apart the fragile peace. The scorching sands of the Sahara Desert cling to Queen Aichi's bare, trembling feet like the fires of hell as she staggers away from the Nile's banks, where the waters have just swallowed the most horrific secret of her life. The ancient Egyptian sun hangs suspended high above, dyeing the fertile silt lands red. But to Aichi, it is merely a ball of fire scorching the regret gnawing at her heart. She clutches her now deflated belly tightly, the royal silk fabric soaked with sweat and tears, her steps heavy as if dragging the immortal river itself along. Each grain of sand crunching under her heels is a reminder. The light-skinned child, the gift or curse of the Yoruba ancestors, has drifted far down the Nile, carrying the cry she will never forget. She cannot return to the palace empty-handed. She cannot face the razor-sharp gaze of King Uju, the man whose ebony skin gleams like the statue of god Anubis, whose rage could incinerate the entire kingdom over a mere whisper of doubt. No, she must act, weave a perfect facade to conceal the crack in her soul. She follows the winding dirt path along the river, where tall reeds whisper like the souls of ancestors passing judgment. The Nile wind carries the wild lotus scent, mingled with the damp earth after the flood. But today, it only makes her nauseous a taste of self-betrayal. Aichi, the queen who once strode proudly amid 1,000 concubines, now slinks like a ghost, her black silk cloak veiling the beautiful face now twisted in pain. She has heard the folk tales from her childhood, of mothers cursed by the Nile for their fears, and now she is the protagonist in that nightmare. The Yoruba curse whispers in her mind. The white light skin will return, bringing blessings to the forgiving, calamity to the arrogant. She shakes her head to dispel it, but it clings like desert dust. She cannot let it happen, not now, when the kingdom awaits its heir. The orphanage village appears ahead, nestled by the Nile like a humble scar on Africa's vast flesh. Simple thatched huts with dried palm roofs sway in the river breeze, and the sound of children's laughter echoes a bitter sound to Aichi, for it recalls the feeble cry of the child she has just lost. She pauses at the village edge, drawing a deep breath. The smoke from the campfire wafts from the wrinkled old women like acacia bark, carrying herbal scents and tales of the divine. Those elders, with eyes deep as Nile wells, were once storytellers by the fire, weaving legends of goddess Oshun, the river deity who blesses lost souls. Ichi pulls her hood lower, slipping through the bamboo fence. Her heart pounds like a Yoruba drum in festival. She is no queen here. She is merely a desperate woman, with a pouch of gold hidden in her cloak's folds, coins gleaming like fragile hope. Inside the main hut, dim light from beeswax candles illuminates simple bamboo cradles where healthy black-skinned babies sleep peacefully, their skin glossy like silt earth after the rains. The eldest crone, with hair white as Nile foam and a kindly smile etched deep with time's wrinkles, looks up as Aichi enters. The old woman asks no questions. Those eyes seem to pierce every secret, as if the river god has whispered ahead. Aichi kneels, her voice trembling yet resolute, begging for a child, a perfect black-skinned boy, just as King Uju desires. Strong, proud, bearing the pure royal bloodline. The crone nods slowly. Her sinewy hands like baobab roots glide over the cradles, then gently lift the boy Arens. The child lets out a brief wail, then falls silent nestled in Aichi's arms, his skin warm, dark as ancient Egyptian bronze, his round eyes sparkling with innocent wonder. The crone hands him over without reproach, merely whispering an ancient Yoruba phrase like a blessing or warning that sends a shiver through Aichi. The gold pouch changes hands in silence, and Aichi holds Arens tightly, feeling as if she cradles her own soul. a soul now torn between life and death. Returning to the magnificent alabaster palace, where towering columns carved with Egyptian gods stand eternal as gatekeepers, Echi passes through the main gate with a practiced smile, the smile of a triumphant mother. Yoruba drums echo from the inner courtyard, pounding like the kingdom's heartbeat, heralding the celebration of the heir's birth. Villagers gather in throngs, their skin gleaming ebony under the afternoon sun. They dance around massive bonfires, smoke billowing with the scent of roasted meat and spicy African seasonings. They cheer as Aichi appears, Arens cradled in her arms, wrapped in royal silk embroidered with gleaming golden threads. King Uju, tall and majestic in his leopard skin armor and cobra-shaped crown, rushes forward to embrace his son. His eyes flash with primal pride, his black skin glistening as if bathed in holy olive oil from sacred lands. He lifts Arens high for the crowd to behold, and the cheers erupt like the Nile's summer flood, drowning out the desert winds. Aichi stands beside him, smiling amid the myriad flickering candle flames from colossal torches, feeling as if the world praises her a perfect queen, a heroic mother. But as night falls, the palace sinks into gentle darkness, with only the distant Nile's whisper. The mask begins to crack. Aichi lies beside the bed carved with images of moon god Thoth, holding the sleeping Arens to her breast. But her dreams are not peaceful. The Nile returns in her slumber, its waters blood-red under Africa's moon, bearing the image of the white-skinned child adrift. A faint glow from his skin flickers like a lost desert star, whispering the Yoruba ancestral curse. The light will return, bringing blessings to those who forgive, calamity to those who bury the truth. She jolts awake in cold sweat, glancing at Arens suckling his thumb contentedly, a tender moment that brings a fleeting smile, like a sunbeam piercing black clouds. This child, though not of her blood, has saved her from the abyss. But is he enough to fill the void the Nile has etched deep? She strokes his cheek, murmuring a gentle folk lullaby of African stars guiding lost souls. But deep within, regret gnaws like a venomous serpent. This false joy, with its bonfire dances and echoing drums, does it truly veil the growing darkness in her heart? Or is it merely a thin shell before the storm of light descends? The Nile, Africa's pulsing red vein, cradles the tiny white-skinned boy like a heaven-dropped treasure, as the Egyptian sun dips behind golden dunes, dyeing the waters a garish, fiery carpet. His feeble cry echoes through the dense reeds, mingling with the splashing tails of fish, like a melancholic melody only ancient souls comprehend. The boy drifts, his tiny hands flailing in vain. His pristine white skin glimmers in the twilight like Sahara sands dusted with diamonds. And then, abruptly, that light flickers faintly, the first spark of the Yoruba ancestral curse, like a fallen star plunging into the river, heralding a destiny grander than the immortal Nile. The waters rise higher around him, the reeds whisper the curse softly, and the boy sinks slowly, his cry fading to rippling bubbles bursting on the surface. It is the moment the Nile seems intent on devouring Queen Aichi's secret, transforming him into part of the verdant depths where Africa's mysteries slumber through millennia. But from the riverbed's abyss, a resplendent figure surges upward like a golden lightning bolt, shredding the calm waters into sparkling whirlpools. It is Queen Mary, sovereign of the hidden mermaid kingdom beneath the Nile, a mystical being embodying Africa's wild, eternal vitality. Her scales, oh, those radiant golden scales shimmer like the desert sun, piercing crystal-clear water, layered in iridescent sheens, reflecting every hue from fiery sunset reds to sea-green algae blues, symbolizing goddess Oshun's power, the river deity blessing wandering souls. Her tail undulates gracefully, long and powerful as the Nile in flood season. Each flick births gentle, swirling currents carrying wild lotus scents from distant banks. Her hair cascades endlessly, jet black as silt soil, flowing with the water's rhythm, and her eyes, deep green as Ganges emeralds, brim with centuries of wisdom, witnessing empires rise and fall. She is no frail Western fairy tale mermaid. She is Mermaid Queen, a warrior with a sharp coral spear at her hip, her skin a glossy brown like rain-kissed African earth, and her voice booms like Yoruba drums, summoning ancestral spirits. As Mary charges, her hand extends swift as a falcon's strike, seizing the boy in an instant before the waters close over his head. The boy coughs and sputters in Mary's warm embrace, his cries now shuddering sobs, his white skin flickering faintly amid the encircling golden scales, like a stray pearl in a diamond sea. Mary presses him to her chest, feeling his tiny heart race like a tribal festival drum. And she murmurs a gentle folk lullaby in the ancient tongue of goddess Oshun, melodious sounds like desert winds whispering through palm fronds. "Oh, little treasure of the Nile," she murmurs, her voice soothing yet bearing the unyielding river's strength. "From what pain were you born that the Nile entrusts you to me thus?" She glides deeper into the underwater realm, where sunlight filters through the waters in golden speckles, illuminating the colossal coral palace rising from the riverbed like a sunken ancient Egyptian city. Crimson coral walls, carved with deities bearing wings and fishtails, gleam like Nile diamonds dusted by gods. Fish swarm the skies, from tiny silver-scaled minnows to massive ancients bearing ancestral memories, and verdant seaweeds sway like tribal dancers in a bonfire rite. But as Mary descends further with the boy, tragedy strikes unexpectedly. He begins to suffocate, his tiny face paling, his small hands flailing weakly in the water, and his white skin's light flares fiercely, the true first sign of the Yoruba curse, like a small flame erupting in ocean darkness. He coughs harshly, bubbles spewing from his mouth, and Mary panics, her heart clenching like a noose. She recalls ancient legends. Humans cannot breathe underwater unless blessed by the river god. With a tender yet resolute gesture, Mary leans down, her lips brushing his forehead lightly, a magical kiss from goddess Oshun, carrying desert warmth and summer flood might. In that instant, the miracle spreads. The boy's skin quivers, his tiny legs curl then extend, transforming into a shimmering silver tail smooth as starlit silk woven from desert sands, blending seamlessly with Mary's radiant golden scales. The boy inhales deeply underwater, his lungs now attuned to the gentle currents, and his cry turns to surprised giggles, his eyes widening to reflect the wondrous submerged world. The white skin's light softens, but the curse whispers through the waters. Only in forgiveness will the light truly bloom. Mary smiles, a warm smile like African sun piercing rain clouds, and she swims more slowly, letting the boy acclimate to his new tale, a mermaid boy now. No longer a stranded human, but part of the Nile's underkingdom. She carries him to the central palace, where mermaids gather, encircling like a silver school under the full moon. They murmur in awe at his glowing white skin, an alien hue amid brown skins and blue-red scales. But Mary raises a hand for silence, her voice thundering softly. "This is my son, Prince Callow, the Nile's treasure, gifted to us." The name echoes through the coral halls, tinkling like silver bells, and instantly the miracle radiates from the boy. Withered moss around the palace bursts into vibrant blooms, crimson coral flowers unfurling like tribal bonfires. Fish swarm denser than ever, and the surrounding Nile waters clarify, sparkling as if dusted with gold from Mary's scales. The mermaid kingdom, once serene, now brims with vitality, as if the Nile has awakened Africa's underwater winter slumber. The mermaids dance around him, their tails swirling joyful eddies, and Callow, though still an infant, grins broadly, his silver tail flicking to the rhythm, like a tiny warrior rehearsing for grand destiny. But amid that joy, the Yoruba curse whispers through the currents, a sly reminder like desert winds bearing sand. Callow's white light skin is but a flickering flame, awaiting the moment of forgiveness to erupt into true blessing or calamity if buried by arrogance. Mary holds him closer, sensing the latent power, but deep down, she knows the Nile bestows no gift without trial. Is this light boy, now Prince Callow of the depths, truly the river's bespoke treasure for the underwater realm, or merely the fuse for a greater storm, sweeping away both land and sea? Sunbeams of ancient Egyptian sun filter through the Nile's emerald depths like a colossal jewel, dancing across Prince Callow's glowing white skin as he darts through vibrant coral reefs, his silver tail slicing the serene currents like a desert light blade. 15 years have flowed beneath the immortal river, transforming the stranded boy into a valiant mermaid youth. his tall frame undulating gracefully amid towering coral pillars, carved with African deities, gods with fishtails and falcon wings, guarding secrets from pharaoh eras. Callow is no longer the frail child adrift on the surface. He is a Nile-bed whirlwind, swimming swifter than the mythical fish of Yoruba folktales, where ancestors recount half-human, half-fish warriors vanquishing desert sea monsters. Each tail flick births small whirlpools, trailing sparkling bubbles like falling stardust, and his white skin, now not only pristine but glowing softly like full moon through Serengeti mists, a mystical light from the ancestral curse, sometimes flickering like a night wind's ember, reminding that true power slumbers, awaiting forgiveness to ignite. Queen Mary, the mermaid sovereign whose golden scales shimmer with every glide through the coral palace, often perches on her massive pearl throne, recounting ancestral tales to Callow amid bioluminescent seaweed glows. Her scales gleam like desert sun melting into water, reflecting myriad hues from tribal bonfire reds to Nile palm greens, turning the palace into an underwater African garden where wild lotus scents diffuse through every current. She teaches him the whale's whispering tongue, melodious echoes through the waters, like Yoruba drums summoning spirits, and the Nile's secrets, how the river murmurs prophecies through sudden eddies, how goddess Oshun blesses those who heed desert winds through the depths. Callow sits there, silver tail coiled around the throne's base, his eyes deep green like Mary's sparkling with curiosity, his softly glowing white skin illuminating her face, casting iridescent shadows on cobra-carved coral walls. Those lessons are more than lectures. They are bonding moments, where Mary strokes his jet-black hair, whispering, "You are the light the Nile brought, my son." But that light shines truly only when the heart knows forgiveness. Callow laughs, a mischievous grin like an African boy fleeing desert drizzle. But deep within, he feels the Yoruba curse pulse in his veins, making his skin's light flicker like a stray shooting star, a reminder that the past never truly departs. And then there is Princess Decca, Callow's foster sister, with a sky-blue tail glossy as rain-washed Nile palms, always gliding beside him like shadow to form, turning underwater afternoons into laughter-filled adventures. Decca, with long hair undulating like wild seaweed and warm brown eyes like silt soil, regards Callow as bloodkin despite his stranger origins from the surface. They frolic around massive coral reefs where branches twist like Zulu dancers in bonfire rites, playing with ancient giant turtles bearing divine memories, creatures with shells etched like African star maps, swimming ponderously like sages telling tales with each surfacing breath. Callow chases Decca through pearl-gleaming caverns, his silver tail cleaving water into playful bubbles, while Decca shrieks with laughter, her sky-blue tail whipping currents like a leopard lash, drawing him into her embrace. Those moments are light as desert breezes wafting by, laced with impish fun. Callow once hid in a turtle shell, leaping out to startle Decca into a whale, her tail thrashing so fiercely a school of minnows scattered like tribal children fleeing an elder's wrath. Decca hugs him tight, whispering folktales of goddess Oshun, the river deity, with a radiant smile like African sun, and how she bestows prophetic gifts on pure souls. To Decca, it's more than play. It's her way of shielding her brother, sensing his white glowing skin as a warm torch amid ocean shadows. But Decca is no mere playful sister. She bears the prophetic gift from goddess Oshun, night visions crashing like sudden Nile floods, sweeping the underwater kingdom's peace. On full moon nights when silver streaks pierce the waters, Decca often wakes in the coral palace, cold sweat mingling with gentle currents, her eyes wide in horror at visions of Callow torn asunder between land and water, his upper body hauled to the golden Nile shore by arrogant phantoms in cobra crowns, dragging him into barren deserts, while his silver tail sinks deep into the riverbed, ensnared by withering seaweed like an ancestral curse. Floods engulf riverside villages, Zulu-thatched huts shattering under raging waters, and African folk cries echo like curses from betrayed gods. Those dreams are no vague illusions. They are sharp as coral blades, leaving Decca trembling, coiling her sky-blue tail like a shield. She doesn't tell Mary or Callow immediately, fearing to worry him, but they spur her to action, turning play sessions into secret trainings, forging his spirit through mental phantom trials. Deka leads Callow to a profound Nile cavern, where his skin's light illuminates walls carved with goddess Oshun's outstretched arms, and she murmurs ancient Yoruba incantations to summon illusions. A haughty phantom king emerging from misty waters like desert fog. The specter towers, ebony skin gleaming like Anubis statue, crimson eyes blazing fury, wielding a black magic sword that whips air into toxic eddies. Callow, first startled then thrilled, charges the imagined fray, his silver tail coiling lightning-fast, coral spear slashing phantom bonds ensnaring his soul. Deka guides from afar, her voice echoing like Nile winds. Don't fight with body strength, brother. Use your heart to pierce the arrogance its desert poison root, severed only by forgiveness. Those sessions brim with drama, laced with laughter when Callow loses and is devoured by a black mire. He springs up, guffawing, tail splashing like a mischievous boy by a tribal bonfire. But through each bout, Callow learns to sense the Yoruba curse within. His skin's light flares brighter when he forgives the phantom, dissolving it into harmless bubbles, but dims when anger surges, temporarily withering cavern seaweeds like drought-stricken Serengeti grasslands. The Mermaid Kingdom, invigorated by Callow's presence, now teems with wondrous life. Seaweeds verdant and twisting like post-flood Nile rice fields, fish swarming with scales sparkling like underwater African festivals, and corals blooming crimson flowers symbolizing ancestral bonfires. Queen Mary often glides through those submerged gardens, her golden scales blending with Callow's white light glow, crafting a vivid tableau like ancient Egyptian palace murals, where gods and mortals dwell in harmony. Mermaid folk whisper in admiration. Prince Callow is the Nile's gift. His light brings underwater harvests. But the Yoruba curse slumbers not. It makes his light flicker more often, signaling the past rising from the riverbed like an uninvited ghost, spawning isolated yellowing seaweeds, as warnings from goddess Ocean that the land-water balance teeters. Deka, after each prophetic dream, clings to Callow amid the reefs, her sky-blue tail entwining his silver one like a protective vow, but her eyes brim with anxiety. The illusion trainings have honed him stronger, but they also unveil fragments of origin. That Phantom King's features feel familiar, like hazy Nile memories. Are Deka's dreams true Nile warnings, or mere zephyrs heralding a grand storm, hurling the underwater kingdom into destiny's whirl? 15 Nile years drift by like an endless African epic, bearing crimson silt and buried secrets beneath fertile mud, while King Uju's alabaster palace looms by the riverbank like an immortal pharaoh, witnessing the kingdom's quiet shifts. Blazing Egyptian sun illuminates walls carved with Anubis eyes gleaming like gems, but beneath the grandeur, invisible fissures spread, like Sahara cracks after rare rains. Uju, now a middle-aged king with silver-flecked beard like Nile-woven threads, rules the throne with iron-gloved velvet, his ebony skin glossy as ancient bronze, but his eyes deep and sharp, as Zulu elephant hunter blades often wander lost amid lavish banquets. Beside him is Prince Arenz, the arrogant youth inheriting his father's fiery wrath, tall with rippling muscles like a tribal warrior, ebony skin gleaming under afternoon sun, but his smile always carries disdain, prompting courtiers to whisper in shadowed stone corridors. Arenz rides horses along the Nile at misty dawns, leather whip cracking air like war drums, chasing desert gazelles with shrill laughter. But riverside villagers, sun-browned farmers with collused silt hands eye him warily, murmuring that the prince bears his father's fire, which would scorch fields in rage. Uju adores him fiercely, cherishing him as the Nile's boon. But deep down, he senses a void, as if the river withheld a piece of his soul in the depths. On the surface, palace life paints a vibrant African canvas. Massive bonfire festivals where folk dance lively Zulu steps to taut-hide drums, smoke billowing with roasted meat scents and pungent African pepper spices, laughter drowning the Nile's murmur. Uju sits enthroned, cobra crown flickering in torchlight, raising date wine goblets to toast bountiful harvests, while Achi stands beside, her perfect queenly smile veiling worry lines around her eyes. She has learned to love Arons as her own, stroking his curly jet-black hair each evening, recounting folk tales of goddess Oshun blessing resilient mothers, laced with light-hearted fun when the boy once hid in her cloak to scare the handmaidens. Those moments bring fragile warmth, like desert sunbeams through black clouds, helping Aichi bury memories of the white-skinned child, but the Nile forgives not easily. Nightly, as the palace sinks into gentle darkness with only chirping insects chorus, she lies wakeful beside the thoth-carved bed, fingers tracing a distant sea pearl necklace, and dreams return like summer floods. The boy adrift on the waters, white skin flickering faintly like a lost star. The Yoruba curse echoing, "The light will return," bringing blessings to the forgiving. She startles awake, cold sweat mingling with river-damp air, wondering if Arends suffices to fill the void, or if the Nile whispers warnings that the past will rise like a specter from the depths. Uju, outwardly content with hunting triumphs and courtiers' praises, is haunted by late-night dreams, where the Nile appears as an ancient half-human, half-fish god. Murmuring prophecies from palace library, papyrus scrolls, yellowed pages, etched with Egyptian hieroglyphs recounting the 2-century cycle when the tribe births the white light child, a divine gift to repel droughts and usher prosperity. In the dream, Uju sees the kingdom parched, desert sands devouring Nile rice fields, emaciated folk kneeling by depleted banks, then a white light flashes from the depths, turning wastes to lush Serengeti greens post-rain. He wakes heart-pounding, sweat-soaked under silk sheets. And those dreams grow frequent, like accelerating Yoruba drums heralding festivals. Uju conceals them, but they gnaw, making him irritable in councils, barking at courtiers over trifles like sand in boots, laced with dark humor. As he jests, "The Nile teases me," like an elder storyteller forgetting the ending by the fire. He begins wandering palace corridors, sleepless nights, fingers tracing river god reliefs with undulating fishtails, pondering if the prophecy truly fits Arends, the strong boy lacking that wondrous light, or if the Nile conceals another treasure in verdant depths. One blood-red sunset as the Nile sun sinks languidly behind golden dunes, dyeing the river a garish, fiery ribbon. Uju departs the throne after interminable desert border councils where nomadic Zulu tribes murmur of impending drought. He steps to the palace terrace, where river wines carry wild lotus scents through tall palm groves, and meditates beside the sacred Zulu wooden mask Nile guardian totem, an ancient baobab carving with a distorted face, gem eyes gleaming like African stars, mouth agape as if whispering divine riddles. The mask, handed down from ancestors, rests on a silk pedestal amid flickering beeswax candles, smoke curling with Yoruba herbs for spirit summoning. Uju sits cross-legged, hands resting lightly on the mask, his skin touching rough wood like desert souls, and he murmurs an ancient incantation, voice deep and resonant through evening winds. "I await one, the Nile's treasure, the white light skin from prophecy." Those words are no prayer, they are silent confession, a longing unshared even with Aichi, his wife loved as a warrior loves, fiercely yet distantly. The mask seems to quiver faintly under his fingers, its gem eyes flashing as if reflecting the Yoruba curse's light, and Uju closes his eyes, letting Nile winds bear hazy visions. A white-skinned youth glimmering underwater, silver tail undulating like a river god. Aichi, from the terrace leading corridor's shadows, overhears the whisper unwittingly she had followed him here, anxious over his day's unnatural silence. Her steps ghostlight on cool alabaster floors. Her heart constricts like a noose. A familiar pain from 15 years past surges, forcing her to grip a thoth moon pillar lest she collapse. "I await one." Those words echo in her mind like tribal drums signaling war, and the white-skinned sun's image floods vividly, the boy adrift on the Nile, faint light flickering like ancestral curse, now perhaps grown into a youth ready to surface from depths demanding justice. Aichi trembles, her ebony skin prickling under thin silk, and she retreats into shadows, silent tears tracing cheeks, mingling with anxious sweat. She has buried that memory for years, using Aaron's playful afternoons, the boy hiding in palm groves to hunt grasshoppers like a tiny explorer to soothe her torment. But now, the Yoruba curse's light flashed in last night's dream, reminding blessings come only through forgiveness. If she dares face the fear that thrust her son into the Nile's arms. She turns away, steps heavy, returning to her chamber, where an ancient bronze mirror reflects her face, a once beautiful queen now etched by time, eyes filled with dread that the secret will burst like summer floods. While Uju meditates by the mask, Nile winds carry distant underwater murmurs. As if goddess Oshun chuckles at fate's jest, the wooden mask quivers stronger, gem eyes gleaming judgment ready. Will this sacred totem force Uju to confront his own arrogance riddle before too late? Or silently witness the prophecy's light storm sweeping the kingdom? Africa's full moon hangs like a massive silver disk suspended over ancient Egyptian skies, beaming down on the alabaster palace through tall palm canopies, turning the terrace into a shimmering silver sea where Nile winds weave wild lotus scents with ghostly past whispers. Queen Achi stands motionless by her private chamber's window, gossamer silk curtains fluttering like lost spirits, clinging to her frame now slimmer after 15 years bearing secret's weight. Her hands grip the stone balustrade carved with moon god Thoth, nails digging into cracked silt, as if anchoring the last scraps of peace before the storm brewing in the Nile's heart. She cannot sleep, not from raucous festival nights with echoing Yoruba drums, but from Uju's whisper by the sacred Zulu mask that afternoon. I await one. Words slicing her woven facade like a blade. Her heart thuds, ebony skin, goose fleshing under thin night silk, and suddenly a fierce gust from the river assaults, bearing phantom cries the feeble wail of her white-skinned son, now grown to manhood, glowing like a lost desert star amid verdant depths. Aichi shudders, silent tears tracing cheeks, mingling with anxious sweat, and memories surge vivid as a slow-motion film under moonbeams. The boy adrift on the Nile 15 years ago, pristine white skin glimmering faintly in twilight sun. Ancestral Yoruba curse thundering like pounding tribal drums, heralding inescapable destiny. She recalls every detail as if the Nile etched them into her soul with crimson silt. The moment she placed him in the gentle currents, trembling hands stroking his cheek one last time, the warmth from that alien skin white as Sahara sands, faintly glowing like goddess Oshun's whisper, the river deity with radiant yet challenging smile. The Yoruba curse, heard from orphanage crones by bonfires, was no mere folktale. It was harsh truth, a divine gift to the tribe every 2 centuries, repelling droughts with blessings but shining only when nurtured by forgiveness. Aichi ignored it, choosing fear over courage, and now, under silver moonlight, she feels it as personal malediction, that light will return, not to forgive, but to expose her betrayal before the kingdom. She recoils, sinking onto the soft, leopard-upholstered chair, fingers tracing her pearl necklace, a distant sea gift, reminder of underwater realms where her son perhaps thrives. A fleeting, light-hearted diversion crosses her mind, like memories of toddler Arens hiding under banquet tables to hunt honey cakes, drawing palace laughter, but instantly, regret swallows it, twisting to bitter throat laugh. The Nile forgives not easily. It murmurs through night winds, bearing visions of the white-skinned youth now likely swimming river depths, silver tail glimmering, awaiting fateful hour. While Aichi wrestles past phantoms by the window, King Uju in his nearby council chamber, linked by serpentine alabaster corridors, plunges into frenzied research under flickering candles. He has not slept, not from haunting prophetic dreams, but because the Zulu mask's whisper lingers. Arrogance is poison root. Forgiveness is river water, an ancient tribal riddle carved into baobab wood like Anubis warnings. Uju dismisses it as desert wind jest, and now spreads yellowed papyrus scrolls across polished ebony table, candlelight gilding Egyptian hieroglyph lines sparkling like stars, narrating the 2-century cycle, the tribe's white light childbearing healing power, turning barren deserts to verdant pastures, repelling foes with divine radiance. He flips pages frantically, rough fingers gliding over brittle sheets, sweat beading on glossy black brow, heart slamming as confirmation dawns. The era arrived with Arenz's birth year, but Arenz is no white-skinned boy, lacking the prophesied flesh glow. Uju growls low like a desert lion scenting prey, and slams fist on table, scrolls quivering like wind-tossed palms. "It must be somewhere," he mutters, voice deep yet primal with fury, deep eyes flashing under candles like Zulu mask gems. He has awaited this gift through his reign, dreaming of an heir bearing Nile blessings, and now, delayed, he feels gods mocking a dark jest, laced with wry humor as he imagines Arenz, the arrogant boy conquering desert monkeys with date fruits, yielding to a white-skinned specter. Unable to wait longer, Uju summons the high priest at midnight, as the palace sinks into darkness save distant Nile slaps and chirping insects' tragic African symphony. The high priest enters through heavy ebony doors, a crone-skinned elder like ancient baobab bark, clad in rough Zulu fur robes with red threads symbolizing ancestral blood, eyes deep as Nile wells, bearing a staff carved with river god fishtail. He speaks not, merely nodding reverence to Uju, and together they proceed to the riverbank, where a massive bonfire awaits acacia logs blazing fiercely, smoke curling with Yoruba herbs for divine summons. Chilling desert night winds whip flames like tribal dancers, illuminating Uju's face now twisted in anxiety, ebony skin gleaming fire-kissed like revived bronze statue. The high priest kneels by the bank, spreading flat leopard hide, and commences ritual, burning dried tobacco leaves wrapped in papyrus, white smoke billowing like rising ancestral spirits, mingling with pleas to Anubis, the jackal-headed embalmer, gateway to the beyond. His voice rises and falls like tribal drums echoing through night. "O Anubis, balancer of souls on Nile altars, reveal the white light-skin's secret." Uju kneels beside, clutching the sacred Zulu mask, rough wood chafing skin like reminder, whispering along, heart pounding like war drums. The rite drags, tobacco smoke wafts prayers to sparkling African stars, and then the high priest opens eyes deep orbs, now gem flaring, like the mask's voice booming firm through crackling flames. The child was born, thrives mightily underwater, Yoruba light burns fierce in his veins. Uju springs as if stung, face flushing fire red, roaring like desert lion scenting hunter. Underwater? Who dares steal my treasure? He grips the mask tightly, and abruptly, it quakes fiercely in his grasp, gem eyes gleaming, whispering the riddle anew, clearer than ever through hazy smoke. Arrogance is poison root. Forgiveness is river water. Uju ignores, rage surging like summer Nile floods, fist pounding silt sending dust clouds, and he bellows into darkness. "I will drag him from the depths, even if I raise the mermaid kingdom." The high priest bows head, daring no intervention, merely breathing Oshun blessings. But Uju turns away, heavy steps returning to palace, Zulu mask still quivering in hand like awakened ancestral warning. From riverside reed shadows, Aichi has eavesdropped all trailing Uju here like a ghost, anxiety-driven. Crouching behind lush green veils, heart hammering like tribal drums heralding doom. Terror coils around her like desert cobra, throttling chest breathless, and she retreats, foot snagging root nearly tumbling into damp mud. The high priest's words echo in her mind, thrives mightily underwater, the white-skinned youth's image now crystal clear, Yoruba curse light flaring in memories like undying flame. She flees to palace, tears blurring moon-silvered vision, bursting into private chamber, locking heavy ebony door, collapsing onto cool stone floor, knees hugged trembling. The 15-year secret, facade woven from feigned smiles, and Arenz's playful afternoons the boy battling dung beetles with bamboo sticks like a pint-sized knight now shatters like cracked dry silt. The Nile has murmured, gods have judged, and Aichi knows that light will return, not to forgive, but to incinerate all. Will the Zulu mask's riddle sway Uju's arrogant throne before the light storm descends, hurling the kingdom into destiny's whirl? Candle flames flicker in the alabaster palace like lost Nile souls, dancing across Anubis-carved walls with gem eyes gleaming judgmental, illuminating King Uju's face now contorted in elongating shadows. He sits on the ebony throne carved with undulating cobra motifs, hands gripping armrests bone white, glossy black skin beating cold sweat despite Egypt's stifling night air like desert breath. The sacred Zulu wooden mask rests beside the throne, gem eyes sparkling like African stars, seeming to track his every twitch, murmuring the ancient riddle through rough grain. Arrogance is poison root. Forgiveness is river water. Uju has summoned Aichi here immediately post-river rite, his voice booming through corridors like tribal war drums, and now she enters, feet trembling on cool stone floors, royal silk robes disheveled like a rent soul. She kneels before the throne, head bowed so jet-black hair brushes floor, heart thundering like roiling Nile floods. And Uju, with deep eyes now bloodshot, furious whispers at first like desert gusts, then erupts like African thunder. The son you bore 15 years ago, was he the white light skin of prophecy? Those words slash Aichi's long-woven facade, like a blade. She startles upward, beautiful face paling under candlelight, silent tears tracing ebony cheeks like silt pearls falling on dry sands. She can lie no longer. The secret buried under memory silt now resurfaces like ancient pharaoh mummy, bearing damp earth scent and cloying regret. With trembling yet sincere voice like ancestral fire prayer, Aichi confesses all. The labor pains by Nile banks 15 years past, the pristine white-skinned boy flickering faintly like lost desert star, Yoruba curse whispering through that alien skin a divine gift she feared to quaking. She recounts the horror gazing upon the child, utterly unlike the tribe's warm brown hue, and dread of Uju the king, whose wrath could raise the palace like desert hellfire suspecting betrayal, dooming mother and child alike. I placed him in the Nile's gentle flow. She chokes, voice breaking like waves on shore. The waters carried him away, curse light flashing final farewell like Oshun's parting whisper. I feared, my lord, feared till my soul shattered, and I chose errands to cloak that wound. Her tears patter on stone, mingling with silt dust, and in that instant, Aichi is no proud queen. She is a shattered African mother, cradling pain like a second child, a pain revived from river depths. Uju listens, face darkening like pre-sandstorm desert skies, hands clenching, joints cracking, and then rage explodes like raging summer Nile floods, sweeping all in path. He leaps up, throne shuddering under his weight, roaring, echoing through palace. Betrayal of gods. You abandoned the ancestors' treasure, the Yoruba gift the Nile entrusted, to shadows underwater. His voice thunders like Zulu gales across savannas, face flushing candle red, finger jabbing Aichi like an enemy. But deep within, personal anguish flares the father's pain of stolen true air. The throne-side Zulu mask quakes violently, gem eyes flaring like ancestral warnings, rough wood creaking like tribal spirits urging restraint. But Uju ignores, his fury now an unquenchable blaze scorching reason like spreading tribal bonfire on dry grasslands. He smashes fist into armrest, wood splintering, echoing like curses, and commands guards tall ebony warriors with gleaming spears to drag Aichi away, but halts, voice dropping bitter. And Arens, the boy, though not blood, shares this fate. The high priest, trailing Uju from the river right, emerges from corridor shadows, Zulu fur robes askew in night winds, deep eyes like Nile wells now brimming concern. He kneels, river god staff quivering in grasp, and voice rises calm like desert winds whispering through acacia boughs. Sire, the queen's fear is no isolated sin. It spreads kingdom-wide like drought-devouring fields, making folk tremble before your wrath. The Yoruba curse demands forgiveness, not blades. His words cool like river water dousing fury flames, bearing prior rites' herbal scents. But Uju growls, whirling like desert lion scenting foe. Silence, old man. My fear? No, this is tribal shame, and the Nile forgives no betrayal. The high priest bows, daring no argument, merely breathing Oshun blessings under breath. But Uju commands. Guards haul Aichi and Arens, the youth rudely awakened from slumber by tumult like nightmare, to the damp stone dungeons beneath palace, where distant Nile echoes through thick walls like mocking river murmurs. Arens, eyes sleep-hazed, clutches mother's hand, arrogant face now fear-twisted, and Echi presses him close, murmuring gentle folk lullabies of African stars guiding souls. A fragile diversion in darkness, like jesting to the boy. Even cobras doze by the river sometimes, but her tears patter on his hair, mingling with seeping wall moisture. Uju, alone in now silent palace like pharaoh tomb, orders search parties, tall Zulu warriors with spears and torches charging moon-silvered Nile banks, where dense reeds whisper like witnessing ancestors. They scour mud, digging crimson silt bare-handed, metal scraping earth echoing like past cries. But no trace of white-skinned youth, only minnows splashing, glimmering under surface, taunting. The high priest, per Uju's decree, closes eyes, sensing, staff quaking as receiving Oshun whispers. His soul dwells underwater, in mermaid realm, mighty as eternal Nile. Uju nods, clutching mask. But that night, wakeful on thoth-carved bed, dreams crash like sudden floods. The Zulu mask revives, distorted wooden face, sneering with gem eyes blazing, forcing riddle deciphery anew. Arrogance is poison root, forgiveness is river water. But Uju, blind in rage, shouts wrong, dream twisting to nightmare. Nile swells abnormally, crimson waters engulfing sleeping sentries by bank, screams echoing like ancestral curses, silt sweeping tents like God's dark prank. He wakes sweat-drenched, peering window where Nile glints moonlit, and for first time, true fear creeps into that arrogant heart fear the Nile rages against him. In dank stone dungeons below, Echi huddles by exhausted slumbering errands. Distant Nile echoes through wall cracks like mocking lullaby, and she kneels, hand touching chill floor, beseeching Oshun in choked whisper, "River goddess, grant blessings to my son's light, though it returns to expose mother's sin." Her tears patter, mingling with ceiling drips, and in that gloom, she senses Yoruba curse vibrating distantly, the white skin light calling from depths. Will that light summon Prince Kallo home before Nile truly wrathful, hurling kingdom into destiny's whirl? African dawn erupts over Nile banks like desert volcano igniting, crimson dyeing the river a bloody ribbon, while King Uju sits motionless in palace council chamber, face stern under sunbeams slanting through alabaster window slits, like revived Anubis statue with bloodshot, wrathful eyes. The sacred Zulu wooden mask sits before him on polished ebony table, gem eyes sparkling like daytime lost stars, rough grain still quivering faintly from last night's nightmare. The flood-devouring sentries dream endlessly murmuring the riddle. Arrogance is poison root, forgiveness is river water. Uju dismisses, rough hand clenching table edge, wood groaning, glossy black skin beating sweat despite reed-born cool river breezes. He has summoned advisors, baobab-wrinkled elders in Zulu fur robes with red ancestral blood threads, and now they prostrate on stone floors, beards brushing earth, chamber air thick as pre-Sahara sandstorm, save distant Nile slaps like kingdom's anxious pulse. Uju awaits no counsel. He growls like desert lion scenting prey, voice deep yet primal fury booming through room. Mermaid stole my treasure. Yoruba light belongs to Nile and tribe. They return him in 3 days, or I turn river to barren waste. Advisors quiver. One staff-bearing elder stammers plea, voice faint as acacia leaf rustle. Sire, perhaps. We beseech, Oshun, send peace words through currents. But Uju fists table thunderously, wood cracking like African lightning, intensifying mass quivers, gem eyes warning flaring. He sneers, dark smile laced with bitter, firelit elder humor like tales of arrogant kings. Nile swallowed. Peace? With underwater thieves? No. I pen a missive, a warning from immortal pharaoh. He reaches for yellowed papyrus from ancient shelves, black ink from rhinoceros horn vial, and scribes swiftly, eagle feather quill slashing paper like desert wind blades. Egyptian hieroglyphs emerge sharp. Nile mermaids, you hold my son, Prince of Yoruba light. Return him in 3 days, lest I drain the river, turning your underkingdom to silt tomb. Those words no plea, they are maledictions, breathing Uju's arrogance, and as he rolls seals with crimson beeswax tribal blood symbol, chamber air thickens. Advisors bow silent, knowing the Zulu mask murmurs warnings they dare not echo. Uju dispatches messenger, a young ebony tall warrior with gleaming spear to Nile bank at dusk, as desert sun sinks lazily, gilding river golden. The envoy kneels, taking tiny glass vial, papyrus scroll within twilight glimmering, and blows brief bamboo flute, melodious as river god call, before releasing vial into gentle currents, where reeds whisper like ancestral witnesses. The vial drifts sparkling like lost treasure. Envoy turns heavy-footed to palace. Unaware Nile murmurs Yoruba curse through crystal waters. Beneath, in glimmering coral mermaid kingdom, a near-surface mermaid patrol glides, tails undulating graceful like moonlit Zulu dancers, and a young mermaid with palm green scales spots the floating vial. She surges up, slender hand clutching chill glass, unfurling under water-filtered golden speckles, whispering to companions. From upper world, bearing desert breath, they race to central coral palace, where Queen Mary thrones on colossal pearl seat. Her golden scales fire bright through waters like African bonfire prisms, reflecting sunset reds to deep-sea greens, tail coiling languid as summer Nile. Mary takes vial from Mermaid's hands, deep green eyes like Ganges emeralds scanning papyrus, face shadowing like pre-sandstorm desert skies. She reads hieroglyphs aloud, voice thundering through palace like Yoruba spirit drums. Return light sun, lest Nile dry. The Mermaid Queen, jet black hair cascading like silt, crushes scroll crackling, rage rising like sudden floods. Not blind fury, but African mother's indignation shielding young from alien arrogance. She rends letter with mighty hand, shreds fluttering through waters like dry palm fronds in desert gales, and growls. Shore's arrogant claims no fatherhood, he is mine. Nile's light for the depths. Words boom through coral halls, seaweeds quivering faintly, and Mary flings fragments. They drift like dissolving curses, but deep within, she senses Oshun prophecy whispering through her golden tail. This but storm's onset. Prince Callow, concealed behind river god fishtail carved coral pillar, has witnessed all he snuck to palace, querying Mary on recent strange dreams where his white skin light flickers like stray stars. But now stands frozen, silver tail coiled tight round legs, softly glowing white skin, faintly flaring in hazy waters. Mary whirls, eyes softening at sight of him, and glides near, warm hand on his shoulder, golden scales brushing white skin, birthing prismatic sparks like tribal bonfire gleams. My son, she whispers, voice soothing as Nile-side folk lullaby. You've seen, that's from upper world, from an arrogant king reclaiming you. Callow trembles, deep green eyes widening horror-struck, and Mary guides him to peaceful palace nook where seaweeds drape like curtains, settling on pearl ledge. She recounts origins, voice rising falling like desert wind ancestor tales. 15 years past, Nile bore him adrift to her, a white-skinned boy abandoned by bank. Yoruba curse, light flickering, faint like divine cry for help. Your birth mother, in fear, let river embrace you. Mary chokes, stroking his cheek, but I rescued, made you ours. That white skin light is Yoruba gift blessing for forgivers, calamity for arrogant. Callow absorbs, heart constricting like noose, pain surging like sudden Nile floods, abandoned not unloved, but from mother's terror. His skin light flares wildly, radiating palace-wide, temporarily withering seaweeds, crimson coral blooms wilting like drought-hit Serengeti grasses, and he clutches head, silver tail thrashing muddy eddies. Suddenly, Princess Deka bursts from seaweed corridor, sky blue tail splashing like leopard whip, warm brown eyes anxiety-filled from last night's prophetic dream. She heard paper-rending echoes, and now lunges, hugging Callow tight, tail entwining his like shield, long hair like wild kelp brushing his glowing white skin. Brother, she whispers, voice quaking yet Oshun resilient. My dream, floods if you go. Nile drowns villages, tears you twixt land and water. She recounts briefly. Dream images vivid. Arrogant phantom in cobra crown, hauling Callow to dry sands, silver tail sinking amid withering kelp, African folk cries cursing like betrayed gods. Callow hugs sister, skin light softening in her embrace, and Mary glides near, hand on both shoulders, golden scales gleaming like eternal vow. We stand united. I'll shield you at any cost, even facing desert fires. The three clasp amid now flickering coral palace, seaweeds greening anew like Oshun miracle. A warm instant laced with light diversion as Decca jest whispers, "If that king comes, I'll tail lash him like desert flies." They chuckle softly, laughter rippling waters like fragile hope. But Mary knows Yoruba curse demands forgiveness, and shore arrogance halts not. On Nile bank that night, Uju lies wakeful by wooden mask, dreams assault like specters. Mask revives, distorted face murmuring clear through desert winds. Forgive or perish. He jolts awake, sweat-soaked, gazing moon-glinting river. And first true fear infiltrates fear, 3-day deadline ignites Nile storm. Hurling kingdom into destiny's whirl, African afternoon sun drapes Nile banks like fiery blanket. Crimson staining river, a roiling bloodstream where dense reeds murmur. Oshun warnings like quaking ancestral souls pre-storm. 3-day deadline exhausted. And King Uju, leopard skin armor glossy hugging tall frame, leads mighty Zulu legion to river edge. Ebony giants arrayed like living wall, spears glinting sunset like desert crocodile fangs gaping for prey. Air heavy as drought breath, Nile winds weaving wild lotus with cracked silt scents, and Uju stands gripping curved cobra-etched sword, sacred Zulu mask hip dangling quivering like tribal heart erratic. He slept not last night, mask dream riddle, arrogance is poison root, forgiveness is river water echoing, but he quells with primal wrath, deep eyes blood red like desert hellfire. Troops rigid, sweat beating glossy black skins, and Uju raises sword high, voice thundering like Serengeti gales. Today, Nile yields my treasure. Cheers erupt from ranks, tribal drums accelerating like war pulse. But deep, some warriors glance mask warily, murmuring gods perhaps chuckle dark at this jest, an arrogant king warring his nurturing river. Abruptly, Nile's surface boils like erupting Yoruba herb pot, white foam erupting skyward, and from verdant deeps, Queen Mary ascends like daytime desert star exploding golden-scaled mermaid queen illuminating river face, layered iridescence refracting sunset into myriad fire sparks, embodying wild Africa's undying vigor from sunset reds to abyssal sea greens. Her tail undulates below, flood mighty as Nile sweeping barriers, jet black hair cascading water-blended, deep green eyes, Ganges emerald flaring mothers unyielding. She rises, not weaponed, slow and regal like incarnate Oshun, golden scales haloing Uju's troops, startling young warriors backward, murmuring awe at mystical beauty, a tense diversion like tribal lads' firelit mermaid yarns, luring arrogant to depths. Mary halts midstream, tail flicking gentle eddies, voice booming through dusk, winds deep yet coral keen as blade. You abandoned your son to drown by bank, now demand debt from seas? Yoruba light belongs not arrogance, it heeds Nile's listeners. Uju sneers, twisted smile under crimson dusk, hand clenching hilt veins bulging, stepping water's edge, leopard armor creaking desert challenge. Heed, I am Nile's king, and he tribe's treasure. Without awaiting reply, he draws sword lightning quick, curved steel flashing sun, and merry fluid as coiling current steps ashore, golden tail quaking, transmuting to sturdy glossy brown legs, scale cloak draping like African goddess mantle hugging warrior form. She draws long coral sword, wave shimmering, fish god spear, cobra etched mirroring Uju's steel, and royals clash, blades ringing like pounding tribal drums in war rite, sparks flying reed illuminating like falling desert stars. Uju strikes first. Mighty swing, lion pouncing, whistling steel, targeting Mary's shoulder. But she evades lithe, brown legs gliding silt sands like Zulu dance, countering coral / whipping his flank, whistling wind bearing deep chill. Dual drags under crimson dusk, each clash an African symphony metal clashes blending Uju troop tribal drums, Nile winds threading wild lotus amid lethal arcs. Uju, primal desert might, gains early edge, sword carving deadly curves pressing Mary back steps on scorching sands, ebony skin sweat glistening like awakened Egyptian bronze. But then, he touches hip-dangling Zulu mask, murmuring ancient tribal incant, and black magic spreads inky fog billowing from mask, coiling his blade like desert viper, turning strikes to whistling black lightning bolts devouring Mary in shadow. Uju troops roar, drums intensifying, but mask quakes violently, gem eyes ancestral fury flaring, magic backlashing dark mist reversing, ensnaring Uju, staggering him breathless like desert strangled, primal strength waning like Nile wind snuffed bonfire. He hacks bitterly, failure's acrid tang tongue lingering, and Mary resilient smile under golden scales lunges counter, coral sword whipping, shoving him retreating, legs flowing sands like sweeping waters uprooting dry boughs. Mary's power stems not self alone. It radiates from Callow's underwater light, Yoruba curse now fiercely flickering through waters, bathing her like desert sun through black clouds, quickening, sharpening her strikes, Oshun Blessed Mother's guard. But then Deka's prophetic dream assaults, like mental surprise from depths, Uju arrogance illusion surfaces in Mary's mind, towering ebony phantom cobra crowned, twisting Yoruba curse whisper, "Light is mine, you mere river thief." Illusion Jinshin strikes blurring vision like desert fog, coral sword hand quivering briefly, and Uju exploits lunging. Black bolted blade throat aimed. Underwater mermaids murmur dread. Seaweeds quaking, tragedy witness. But Deka from abyss channels prophetic force through current's sky blue tail thrashing energy eddy. Oshun dream rippling like folk lullaby. Dispelling illusion with callow light burst vision. Phantom dissolving harmless bubbles on river face like dawn-melted desert mists. Mary regains poise, deep green eyes flaring, countering savagely. Coral sword whipping, felling Uju backward onto silt sands. He staggers rising, breath ragged, shoulder gash, blood oozing. Uju kneels one knee, hip Zulu mask now quaking fiercer. Gem eyes dusk whispering final riddle clear through winds. Apologize to live. He looks up, face contorted under crimson sun, and Mary stands. Coral sword throat pointed, golden scales dawn bright promising hope. Both sides silent, tribal drums halting, only Nile slaps like waiting pulse. And Uju first tastes true fear. Fear arrogance devours not him alone, but kingdom. Will this battle halt before Nile truly enrages, sweeping all into destiny's whirl? Nile foam erupts like awakening desert volcano mid-twilight crimson, shredding river face into roiling white eddies. And from verdant deep's chasm, a glittering form rockets upward like reverse-falling Yoruba comet Prince Callow, white-skinned youth now ancestral curse light exploding, blooming radiant as African dawn devouring night. Silver tail coiling to sturdy, glossy brown legs, tall frame divine powered by Oshun, illuminating banks into living diamond sea. Tension shatters abruptly. Uju troops recoil horror-struck, spears quaking dusk sun like lurching palm leaves in gale, while underwater mermaids cheer whisper through foam. Seaweeds quaking saviors return from tribal legends. Callow strides hot silt sands, each step imprinting stardust gleams like desert constellations, softly glowing white skin now halo bursting enveloping, dispelling lingering black magic mists from Zulu mask. Voice booming like African thunder rolling Serengeti plains. Cease. Not a shout, divine command quaking air till Nile earth trembles faintly, dense reeds bowing obeisance, and Uju's once blind, loyal ebony giants now prostrate sands, spears clattering like wind-fallen dry leaves, faces awe recognition twisted the light, the awaited prophetic treasure. Uju's hip Zulu mask, quivering warnings through battle, now erupts gem-eyed blaze, rough wood creaking like rising Zulu ancestors acclaiming true air. Spotlighting King's face, paling under crimson dusk. Uju staggers back, curved sword clanging sand-dropped, and Callow advances, frame shimmering like revived river god statue, deep green eyes. Mary's legacy, meeting birth father's sand's hatred, only gentle resilience like Nile embracing barren deserts. He strikes not, stands, white skin light warmly diffusing heavy air, soothing warriors' chest-clenching fears, and in that instant, light diversion wafts like breeze young guards murmur, "Look, white prince." Axel like firelit yarn lad slaying cobras with grin. But Callow smiles not, confronts Uju, voice deep resonant like Yoruba river folk lullaby. Your arrogance like desert poison root, father, devouring all green. Nile teaches three simple words. Sorry, please, thank you, bridges mending wounds, not swords rending souls. His words no sermon, cool river depths, soaking Uju's arrogant heart, compelling knee drop, rough hand, silt touching like tribe's first humility. Queen Mary, beside in battle-tousled golden scale cloak, shoulder wound crimson silt mingled, but Callow kneels her first. Shimmering hand lightly on gash, Yoruba, curse light fingertip radiating, like desert sun through rain clouds, healing brown glossy flesh scarless, golden scales reglossing untouched. Mary smiles, deep green eyes Oshun motherly cherishing, stroking his cheek, murmuring brief ancient mermaid lullaby Nile depth warm. From below, Princess Decca surges, sky blue tail to slender legs, water droplets desert pearl glistening skin, lunging aiding prophetic dream, warm brown eyes closing. Oshun incant whispering summoning callow light burst vision from slumber, banishing residual arrogance illusions in minds, dissolving to river face harmless bubbles like dawn desert fogs. Uju troops, once black magic loyal, now silently rebel weapons clanging sand dropped, prostrating before Callow over king, glossy black faces hope-filled like post-shower tribal farmers, murmuring, light returns, as papyrus prophecy vows. Uju, kneeling amid own troop encirclement, gazes up at now torch blazing Zulu mask like ancestral pyre, final riddle rough wood, clear echoing, sorry to live, he trembles. Hand clutching mask like lost child soul, glossy black skin paling under callow light, and then voice chokes desert wind soft like sand regret born. I am sorry. Not feeble murmur, key unlocking, mask softening, gem eyes dimming like setting stars, and Nile responds gentle currents returning, foam vanishing, reeds straightening like divine forgiveness witnesses. Callow rises, white skin light erupting fiercer than ever, diffusing air like heaven-sent silt rain, ending curse-spawned temporary drought, thunderheads massing overhead, rains pattering hot sands greening riverbank meadows glistening, underwater seaweeds bloom festooning like tribal revels. Uju slumps, cradling wooden mask like motherless babe, tears tracing ebony cheeks, silt rain mingling first. That arrogant king tastes forgiveness's relief, like desert burden Nile swept away. Callow approaches, kneeling by father, shimmering hand lightly on shoulder, light warmly soothing flesh spirit pains, whispering, forgiveness, no weakness, father. Nile's might, turning poison roots to verdant trees. Uju lifts head, deep eyes now regret brimming, embracing sun tightly, tall frame quaking like post-long battle Zulu warrior. Rains pattering father-son like Oshun benediction. Both sides forces mermaid surfacing tail glimmering. Zulu warriors bank standing rise slowly. Cheer whispers spreading like hope-born desert winds. Verdant seaweed, silt-wet sands blending unified African canvas. But amid joy, black magic shadow from Zulu mask lingers wood grain subtle, faint dark wisp like ancient desert murmur, and Callow senses it fingertip quivering will this fragile peace endure? Or that shadow revive, retesting Yoruba curse? And thus, by mystical Nile banks, where immortal river lullabies from distant pharaoh times, King Uju shaves head like penitent Zulu warrior, silver beard replaced by glossy bald pat, face no longer stern, but softened under blazing African sun, as if shedding arrogant shell, to true man a father, king heeding desert winds and Oshun murmurs. He rules with merciful hand. Councils now absent growls, but firelit laughter, where sun-browned villagers gather ancestor tales, sharing sweet date fruits and impish jests on how cobras bow to sincere sorries. Achi freed from dank stone. Fell, legs trembling emerging dawn sun, beholding callow birth sun returned, white light desert star glimmering kneels, tears tracing ebony cheeks, whispering long-denied self-forgiveness. Nile brought you home, and mother learned fear mere shadow. Yoruba light eternal truth. Callow lifts her, warm arms enfolding, skin light silt rain, radiating mending deep heart wounds, turning alabaster palace true home, where Aaron's once arrogant boy, now humility learned frolics with Decca, her sky blue tail now slender legs ashore, siblings chasing grasshoppers by reeds like carefree African young under green palms. If this journey from abandonment fear to Nile-side light crown moves you, like and share now to spread forgiveness lesson. Comment below. Want part 2, where ancient shadows return. Your thoughts on Callow's arc? Watching from where, what time? Thrilled for your company here, share with US kin and friends. Subscribe channel miss not part 2. Will Yoruba curse new trial as desert phantom rises?